I'm so honored to get to start this day off with you. I'm actually a little nervous because I usually have time through translation to think. So I'm just gonna free flow. But I want to start with a question. What do you want your legacy to be? This is a picture from the Team Elite trip that we took in Rome, this last one. And we were in all these places that have lasted generations and centuries. And the only way to create something that lasts centuries, generations, is to base it on principles. And we had some great speakers last night. I hope none of you missed them. But Ken and Yvette talked about principles. They talked about building with principles. And Wen and Eugene talked about building with principles. And Ben Lowe talked about purpose. And I had a mentor once share with us that, sorry Matt, I'm winded. This isn't actually nerves, this is wind. I had a mentor once share with us that if you knew what you wanted your legacy to be going into something, you'd make very clear choices as you went along. And he gave a couple examples. He talked about O.J. Simpson and Roger Pistorius and Lance Armstrong. All of them were very focused on winning and being the best in their sport, but they didn't think about the legacy they were going to leave. So they made bad choices that impacted the legacy. Because rather than Lance Armstrong being the best cyclist of all time, which could have been his goal, he'll be known forever as the guy who don't. So today we're going to talk about the principles of System 7. And if you are always weighing everything you do against these principles, you'll make better decisions in your business and you'll build a long-term legacy asset. And that's what we're all here for, or most of us are here for it. In fact, I forgot who last night asked, how many of you are here to build, Ben Lowe asked, how many of you are here to build a legacy and really create wealth? So I'll give you a little bit about my background. I was born in the 60s to these two lovely people. You can tell I'm ready to go to work. I'm the girl in the picture. That's my brother. He's looked annoyed ever since I've been born. So, he's like, I was the center of the universe, and then that happened. But my parents were a little bit untraditional because my mom is now 83, and back when she was growing up, a lot of women didn't go to college. And both of my parents grew up on farms in Hay Center, Nebraska. Has anyone been to Nebraska? There's always somebody. Has anyone been to Hay Center, Nebraska? Shut up, Billy? Really? There's population 200, I kid you not. This is my parents' hometown. Wow. So they grew up in a small town and nobody went to college. And nobody left. And my mom had a dream to leave. That was her big dream. Just got to get out of this town. And there were two choices. You could be a teacher or a nurse in those days, in the late 40s, early 50s. So she graduated from high school at 16 and went to college. And she became a professor. She actually ran a department at Cal State Long Beach and was head of the multicultural committee. And my father was a biomedical engineer. And what I learned from them were some very important values. The first one was about commitment. And a lot of the speakers last night talked about that. Wen and Eugene talked about never quitting and committing. And obviously they're committed because this is about 3 years ago at their 60th wedding anniversary. So they're committed. Yeah, right? And they're smiling. The second thing I learned was really about integrity and honesty. And that was a value. I remember distinctly when I was a kid, the phone would ring and it would be someone I didn't really want to talk to. And I knew this worked at my friends' houses. Their parents would say, oh, she's not here right now. My mom was like, you tell them you're not here right now. She just wouldn't lie under any circumstances for any reason, ever. But as a result, I grew up trusting that people do what they say they're going to do. The third value that they really instilled was service of others. And actually, at their wedding anniversary, every single person stood up and talked not about my parents, but about what how they'd impacted them. Every person. Your mom did this for me. Your father did this for me. And it was truly about their legacy, which is good because they didn't have grandkids. So, you know, when you don't have kids, like my husband and I don't, and you don't have grandkids, it's really important that you create a great legacy with something. The fourth thing that I saw in them was that they loved what they did for a living. They were passionate about their careers. My mom didn't retire till she was almost 80. She was like 79 and a half because she loved it. And she retired several times and there were several retirement parties, but every time they said, Bonnie, would you teach another class? She said, okay, if you need me to, I'll teach another class, because she loved it. So I went out in the work world looking for something that matched those values. And I went to a top university, I went to UCLA, and I started my career in advertising. And looking for these values, mind you, because I like people and I thought advertising would be about people and interesting. One of my first experiences in advertising was I made a mistake and it saved the client money, but it was my mistake, and the client called and said, I thought I ran this size ad, and I said, oh, that was my fault. I'm so sorry, I ran a smaller ad. The president of the company came in later and said, never tell them it's your fault. I was like, but it was my fault. Never tell them it's your fault. Never take blame. And I was like, it was so against my value system. And he was a good guy, he was a very good guy, but it was just, don't tell the client that you've made a mistake. So I started to think, maybe this wasn't quite the right fit for me. And I went back and got a master's degree in psychology, and I ended up working for a pharmaceutical company thinking that would be really life-enhancing. And see how naive I am. My parents that were raised on farms in Nebraska, I thought it would be life-enhancing. So I hated that job because I hate sales, and I thought it would be about relationships, and it really wasn't. So luckily, a friend of mine hired me to start with a home health company. And what I saw in my career was, as I advanced in my career, it was all about, I started living the American dream: get a promotion, get a better title, get more money. Another promotion, better title, more money. Another promotion, better title, more money. And as I did this, the little flame inside of me was dying. And my dreams were dying. I didn't even remember dreams. I'm like, I just want a nice car and a nice place to live and maybe a husband one day. But I was really losing touch with what was important to me. And it wasn't that it wasn't a good place to work. It wasn't that they weren't good people. Healthcare people are some of the best people in the world. But it wasn't a good fit for me because I really wasn't creating a legacy. I wasn't impacting people. And the company I started with, when my friend started it, every time we spoke, he'd say, how are the patients? Have you seen them? Are you going out to visit the homes? How are the caregivers? Are they getting what they need? We changed CEOs because the investors were starting to want their investment back. And the new CEO, every conversation, because I reported to him directly, every conversation was, what are the numbers? What are the numbers? What are the numbers? And in healthcare, that's kind of a disturbing question because it was, to me, about people. And I was still doing my best and I was sacrificing a lot. And one day, most of you know this story, called into the CEO's office in January, told I was the most talented person in the company, given a great raise. 6 months later, we were looking to be acquired. Same CEO called me and said, you're the biggest line item, we're gonna have to let you go. So this is how I felt. Because I had sacrificed relationships. I was 39 and single, almost 40. I was 40 something and single. I know I was single. I was about to date. No, I was 40. So I was 40 and single. I hated my job, so I had competitors calling saying, hey, come work for us. I had no interest in doing that again, none. And I really didn't know what I was gonna do next. And I had a lot of options, but I didn't have any idea what I wanted to do next. And so I started evaluating what was important to me and coming up with very little because I had lost track of it. But the good thing was I had a lot of time free up. So I met the guy who would become my husband. So that was the benefit of free time. And we actually had a very good life together. He, at the time that I met him, I was doing business coaching and I got hired with a technology firm to go in-house. So I was working with them and eventually I got to lay everyone off and me and the CEO were the last two to go. So that was rewarding, as you can imagine. Most of the people I had hired and told them what a great future we were going to have together, and we were with this startup and it was going to be fabulous. We were all going to get rich and realize all our dreams. And that didn't happen. But Jeff said, just do what you want to do. Like, do something you enjoy. Find something you love, and you don't have to work. And so I didn't have to work, and I was doing some consulting. And Jeff provided a great life, great lifestyle. He had a great business. We went on great vacations. We lived in a beautiful apartment in San Francisco, one of our great vacations. There were a couple problems. Every day, he got in his nice car and I got in my nice car, and we did this. Drove opposite directions, spent our days completely apart, came home, had dinner together, got back on our computers, maybe watched some TV and went to bed. And we did it over and over and over. And then the financial crisis hit in 2008, and Jeff would wake up at 4 in a panic, sweating, go to his office at 5, and do it over. And he says it was like someone was beating him over the head with a shovel every day. And so we'd still go on nice vacations. We lived for vacations. The problem was, this is Jeff on vacation. He's got his cell phone, he's looking, we're at this beautiful villa in Italy, and he's looking for a cell zone. He's looking to get it because he's the only one who can handle the problems. So he, in 2010, called one of his dearest friends. He'd done all his research on companies to buy and technologies to invest in, and he was going to make a career change. And he called Sandy Tillotson, the founder of Nu Skin, and said, you have to look at Nu Skin. So when your smartest friend gives you advice, you're wise to take it. So he looked at Nu Skin, and within, I think he did a couple months of research, he met with our sponsor, and he said, I'm going to do this full time. I'm going to get out of my business and I'm going to do this full time. You can imagine my excitement that my husband was leaving his lucrative career to sell skincare and supplements in a network marketing company. I honestly, I know most of you know, my initial reaction was, psh, don't tell anybody. Like, don't tell the neighbors. Our neighbors were venture capitalists. Like, don't tell the neighbors. They're going to think you're crazy. But I did finally go visit Nu Skin. I came to an event like this, and I visited Nu Skin, and lo and behold, the values my parents had taught me. Commitment. I started looking at the science and going, oh my God, this is real science. And they're committed to doing really quality products. And then I was blown away by the integrity and the honesty of the Nu Skin corporate leaders. Amazing people. And then the third thing was the service piece. I was introduced to Nourish the Children. By then I was like, Jeff, you can tell our friends. I'm not going to do this because it's network marketing, but you can tell our friends. I didn't get a master's degree to do network marketing. And then Sean Brady spoke. And Sean Brady said, I'm not going to tell you my story like I'm doing right now. He said, I'm going to tell you what Nu Skin's done for me. And he shared about being able to leave his business for months. And after this tsunami in Southeast Asia, he went and helped rebuild homes and clear debris and really give back. And Sherry supported it. And he didn't make a single phone call, a single email about Nu Skin. And his check grew. And that was the moment I was in. I was like, I am going to do this business because my dream had always been to have that kind of freedom and to be able to go help people in the world. But I could never leave a company, like a business, and come back to it. And I could never do it with my husband. So we started our Nu Skin adventure. And I was born into an OTG family. My sponsor's Derek Tillotson. Uncle Nathan founded OTG. So I was born with this. I didn't know there was anything else. And one of the things that Nathan said once that has always stood out was, the truth is always good enough. And I'll never forget that. And it was so contrary to everything I'd learned about business. And I get to talk today about the foundation. So if you think about the Colosseum, it's still standing today because it's built on solid block. It's built on solid foundation. So these, being a team player, is part of our habits. This is our training system that we share around the world. This is the reason that we can have business in Vietnam and in Europe and in South America, and I don't have to be any of those places. In fact, last Saturday, because of this system, I was getting texts from Spain and Hungary and Chile saying, oh my gosh, the event's amazing. And I was with my parents, doing nothing about Nu Skin. Actually, that's all about Nu Skin, because I got to be with my parents. But it's all because of duplication, edification, respecting sidelines, no crosslining, and consultation. So I think every one of these principles, for me, back up a value. How many of you value freedom? The ability to be with your family, the ability to never have to say no to your kids when it's something important for them, piano lessons, a good school. The only way to ever achieve the value of freedom is through the principle of duplication. So everything we do in life duplicates. And the beauty of duplication is it allows for individual personalities. All of us can do things in our own way as long as we're following the system. And you don't want to do things that can't duplicate because they don't duplicate, and then you don't have freedom, and then you have to be everywhere. If I was the best speaker in the universe, I'd need to be with every team that we have all the time. Or they'd need to use me. In fact, when Jeff and I started this, he was a great speaker from the day. It's like day one. He can think off the top. He's a lawyer. He can just think. I need to organize. So I was never as good a speaker as he was. But at the beginning of our business, I relied on him to do everything. And it hit me that that was duplicating in our organization. So I was disempowering everyone in our organization because I was forcing him to be the superstar and to do things himself. This business is not about being the superstar and doing everything yourself. It's about using all the strengths of all the different team members. Another good lesson we learned about duplication was we have core habits. These are things we know make people successful. The most successful people do these habits. You'll learn more about them. I was doing half of them. I was doing the ones I liked. I don't like getting up early, so the general's call. Some days I was on, but not all the time because it's early in California. It was really very early. And then I would get on, so I would be on, but I would be like half asleep. And I noticed that, I'm sure a zillion people said this, but the first time I heard it was from Laura Call when she said, your team is going to do what you do or less. And I was like, oh, if they're doing what Jeff does, we're in good shape. If they're doing what I do, we're in a lot of trouble. And so I had to step up. I had to up my game. So I started being up with my pen in the morning on the general's call and actually taking notes. And then I learned something from my husband. I went back and reread my notes. That was something I'd never done. I just learned, that's how I learned, is just taking notes. And Jeff would go back and say, I was rereading my notes from last Success Summit. And I was like, what? You went and reread notes that you've already taken? It's amazing how helpful it is to reread notes. Who knew? It's because it's not like I was cramming for a test, so I didn't really need to read them, I thought. But anyway, so I learned things like rereading notes. I hope this duplicates in our business. And the funny thing is, things in your business will duplicate whether you're paying attention to it or not, whether you know it or not. It's this crazy universal energy that we learned about from Sherry Brady. People do what you do. This was a great lesson too. Many of you know I have a dog. I learned I'm sure you do this with your kids, but I learned so much about the business from our dog. Because when I first got her, I was like, come on, Jenny, come on, sit like a cat and look at me. And then I realized if I just went, okay, I'm going, she would come running after me. And I was like, oh my God, that's our business. If you're begging people to do, you gotta come to the event, it's gonna be so great, come on, and dragging and pushing. But if you're like, I'm at the event, I'm gonna be there early. I'm gonna be there with a pen in my hand taking notes because it's so valuable, I don't wanna miss anything. People will follow you. So duplication, I think Kenton Worthington said it beautifully, causes ripples in the universe that go forever. And you don't even ever know sometimes where they started or where they came from, but everything we do duplicates. So you need to be conscious about what you want to have duplicate. For me, it's attitude, leadership, but you need to decide for your own business what you want to have duplicate, what's important to you. For us, it was a culture of service. And it's interesting because about a year ago, I went back and looked at who on our team had been donating Vitameal from the day they began their business. All of them had been more successful than the people who weren't. So energetically, because that's a mindset, $24 a month, really? We spend that on coffee, I don't drink coffee, but we spend that on a lot of junk. You could be feeding a child with that. And honestly, everyone in our business who started that way, with giving back, still in the business and still having success. So, what other things do you want to duplicate in your business? Do you want to duplicate leadership? Or do you want followers? It's up to you, it's your business. And some of us think we want to duplicate leadership, but we're so busy being the leader that no one else can step up. And it's funny, my husband's a very powerful guy. Every so often, I had to remind him, step aside. You have to sometimes, if you're the leader, step aside so that other people will step up. I'm looking at the back table. Charlie Patterson's normally back there, isn't he? Not today. There's other people that are back there. Same with TEU, it used to always be Jeff Mack. Now Leaf's back there. What do you want to have duplicate? And know that it will be part of your legacy, and that duplication is the only way to have freedom. So the second principle is edification. This, I'm proud to say, I live 70 steps away from this in Budapest, Hungary. What does this building say to you? It's important. Whatever's going on in there is important. Like, that's important stuff. No, I mean, look at all the detail, all the time they put into this. This has to be one of the most important buildings in the universe. Certainly in Hungary. I won't tell you it's a government building, but the building itself stands for, this is important work we're doing. And to me, that's what edification is. Edification is about making things seem important and bringing the attention to things because they are important. It's about lifting things up, and that's what edification means. It means to lift up. And edification, my personal belief, and I'm a student of the values. I'm lucky enough to have spent time with Caravazzi and Kenton Worthington and Balagoto, who really developed System 7. And so I've really studied the principles. And one of the things that I believe is that, again, each of them has a value. That the principle is, if you follow the principle, the value will come true. And for me, edification is about success, but it's also about a culture, like having an enriching, uplifting culture, which is New Skin's value. And edification is about shining a spotlight on things and making them, showing their value. So, what do we edify? This is a picture I took in Vietnam, in Vung Tau. And we walked up to this elevator bank and went, oh my gosh, look at this elevator bank. This is what is this thing? This has to be really important. You know what it was? It was the up button. So what do you edify? Everything. You edify everything. Do you have the things I gave you? Thank you, Sean. So I can tell you, on my very first date with Jeff, he was not in Nu Skin, but he pulls this out, sits it down on the table. He didn't kind of do this, like, I'm going to take my vitamins now. He literally set it down on the table. What is that? This is my vitamins. Take them every day, twice a day. He wasn't even doing Nu Skin, and he was edifying the products. He loves the products, so he was like, here's what I do. And there's so many things, like obviously the products are one of the things you edify. What's more edifying? If you guys see me putting this on, I know in the back it's hard to see, it's not Nu Skin. Or if you see me putting this on. I've been in rooms like this and seen other people's chapstick, like other people's lip balm, and other people's lipstick. It doesn't edify our products. And the reality is we have great products, so we should be proud and we should edify them. We should edify our sponsor. And this was something I witnessed. I was in a cafe in Vietnam. Can I sit on this? Is this? Mm-hmm. I'll pretend. So I was in a cafe in Vietnam, and I'm sitting there. How many of you know Vatsi Kadaway from Hungary? Okay, he's like 6'11". No, he's like 6'5". Someone's coming in the room, and he's like, oh my gosh, it's Dean Wynn, it's Dean Wynn, come on. He didn't just say, hey, this is Dean Wynn. And go down his bio. He got up and was like, oh my gosh, do you see this guy? He makes you excited, and you want to follow him because he edifies everything. And when we first moved to Hungary, Jeff was still in Vietnam, I was in Hungary, and it was 11 o'clock one night. I was just getting my bearings. I was having a big bowl of ice cream. I was outside at a cafe, and I thought, I really need to start working out sometime. It was Thursday. I thought maybe Monday would be good. So I think I was having a glass of wine with my ice cream, and I text Vatsi Kadaway, and I said, hey, where's a good gym? This guy, long story short, 6 a.m. the next day, I'm meeting him to work out. I'm like, how did this even happen? He's like, he calls me. Oh, I have the best place. You have to come. It's going to be great. Hang on. Boys, remember Diana and Jeff? Yes? Diana's going to meet us at 6 a.m. to work out. Yay! I'm like, oh my gosh, now I have to go. But he made it sound like so much fun that I wanted to go. And I went, and it was fun. Maybe not quite as much fun as he said it was, but it was fun, and I'm glad I went. So it's not only what you say, but it's how you say it. And it's to whom you say it. And I found this picture, and it's so beautiful because even in nature, edification happens. Like if you look at this flower, the most important parts are the stamen and pistil. Anyone remember 7th grade biology? Like the reproductive parts on a flower are the most important parts. This whole flower is like pointing at it, like, look at this! This is the good stuff. And that's what we do. And it's funny, this business, I made it so complicated when I started, until I realized that all you have to do is 2 things. You have to become a great edifier and a great inviter. The rest does itself. And if you use the system, you have stuff to invite to. And if you edify it and you edify the person you're talking to, they'll show up and the system will do the rest. Great edifier and great inviter. Another important part is, how do you edify an event? How you talk about it, when you show up. Do you show up early, or do you wander in? Sorry, people that are wandering late. Or do you wander in late? Do you take notes? Do you want your team taking notes? Do you want duplication? Do you smoke outside? Nothing makes me crazier than leaving a Nu Skin event and seeing people smoking outside. Luckily, it doesn't happen so much here, but I've been to many events around the world where you walk out the door and you walk through a cloud of smoke. We're a health company. We're an anti-aging company. Smoking de-edifies what we do, in my opinion. I was at the gym today at 5 a.m. I know, and I hate the morning. I figure if you're not going to sleep for 2 weeks, just keep going. But I thought, oh, this is edification. I'm edifying my body right now. And that's what we do. If you edify is to treat well and to raise up and to make it better and to make it seem better. And one thing about edification that I think is wonderful is really only you can edify yourself. Other people can say really nice things, and other people can introduce you in such a way that the new person feels like you've been edified, but it's up to you to edify yourself by how you dress, by how you show up, by your attitude. And another piece of learning, when I first was with this pharmaceutical company, it was drilled into us, wherever you go, you represent this company. Just so you know, wherever you go, you represent Nu Skin, and we are an MLM, so we're automatically a little bit seen a little bit less sometimes. So we have to be better than everybody else. We have to be kinder. We have to be friendlier. We have to be better people. And I'm driving to my first appointment. I'm out in the field in this old pharmaceutical company. First day in the field, I'm driving to an appointment, and this guy cuts me off, so I can't get over. And I had some thoughts that I wanted to share with him about his action. But I remembered that everywhere I go, I represent this company. So I didn't. I just slammed on my brakes and got behind him. And I followed him all the way to his office, where he was the first doctor I was ever going to call on. And I, to this day, thank you for reminding me that everywhere I go, I represent this company. So back to duplication, you may do everything right in Nu Skin. You may be committed, you may be edifying, you may do everything right. But are you doing that everywhere else in your life? Because if you're not committed somewhere else in your life, lack of commitment will show up in your business. If you're a jerk to the pool man or the guy, the cable guy, that's not edifying, and it will show up in your business. Again, with the freaky universe stuff. Everywhere you go, you represent Nu Skin. I don't care if it's your HOA dues or if it's your grocery store frustration or the airport, you represent Nu Skin. And you never know who your next executive is going to be or who your next team elite's going to be. So always keep in mind edification. So, the next principle, respecting sidelines, no cross-lining. To me, this principle is about trust and about being a team player. And the only way to have an international business, or even a national business that you don't have to babysit, is to be able to trust each other. And for me, respecting sidelines is all about teamwork. I mean, I look at the people at the back table. You think that that's what they actually want to be doing with their day? Of course not. They want to be here, they want to be taking notes, but they're providing a service, and they're being great team players. And I look at Sean and Sherry Brady, who are amazing. They go speak for groups. They don't have any business in a particular place. They don't care. They're willing to come and serve, always, always. When in Eugene, their team in New York isn't all their downline. It's everyone in New York that wants to be part of their team in New York. They adopt anyone who needs help. I think a true team player doesn't differentiate between their team and anybody else's. And respecting sidelines means we get to work together because we respect each other and we create a safe environment for each other. So this will happen to you, I promise. My very first event, I'm sitting next to someone, my first event after I started, sitting next to a woman, oh, you live in San Francisco, I live in San Francisco, my upline doesn't do anything, they don't support me, I wish I was on your team. Wow, you guys are really great. I mean, I've been in the business a day. You guys are really great, it'd be so great if I was on your team. I wonder how I could be on your team. You think there's a way I could switch? And I'm like, oh, this poor woman, she needs us. She needs our help. So my upline happened to be there. I went over and said, there's a woman, and nobody in her upline is helping her. And she wants to be on our team. And he smiled and said, well, there's two sides to every story, and we never, ever take someone else's prospect or someone else's team member. Ever. And a lot of new people don't know that. I don't care if you come into an event and your very best friend from life has been there and invited by someone else, guess what? You lose. Bad on you for not calling them first. And that's the only way we can trust each other, is if everyone has that value. and understands that, to me, it's very short-sighted to think, well, but this is my good friend, and that means you don't really want to work in the rest of the world. Because those kind of things, those kind of actions do precede you. There are people in the world who you may choose not to work with because you've heard that they steal people. That's not a value that we hold in OTG. We hold respecting sidelines. I respect your business. The other thing is, it's someone else's business. You might as well steal out of their purse if you take a prospect or a downline. Like, we don't ever think about it. These people are money. They're potential money. So how do we respect our sidelines? By not cross-lining and cross-lining. Oh, and I'm sorry, some of you may be new. A sideline is anyone who's not your upline or your downline. It's a sister line. It's someone who's not your upline or downline. All of those people are sidelines. Most of the people in this room are sidelines to each other. So not cross-lining encompasses, of course, never taking anyone's prospect or downline. It also is, it encompasses so many things. Not being negative. And this is an interesting one to me because we've all had well, if you've been in the business a while, you'll have someone complain to you at some point. And complaining is fun, right? I mean, it's something we get to do together, we get to bond. Oh, I know, it was so hard. This business is so hard, it's awful. My upline's not supportive. And what if that's the day they were feeling really down and they quit? You've impacted someone else's business and you don't have the right to do that. You don't have the right to bring down someone else. So if someone comes to you complaining, say, you know what, I'm trying to follow the principles. I mean, Jeff would be like, stop complaining. But I have a different personality. So, so if someone comes to me complaining, I'm more likely to say, you know what, I totally get it, but I'm really trying to practice the principles, and this is feeling like cross-lining. Like, it just doesn't feel good, and I don't want to be complaining. I want to be edifying. I want to be uplifting. Because complaining, they did a study on Facebook. Facebook showed news feeds to 6,000 people, and they showed half of them negative stuff and half of them positive stuff for a week. The next week, they monitored what those people posted. The people that had seen negative things started posting negative things. The people who posted seen positive things started posting positive things. So it's emotional contagion. You want to be the one, the way to edify yourself and to not cross-line is come with solutions. If there's a problem with shipping, come with solutions. Don't go with complaints to anyone, but if you have a bad day, talk to your upline, and only your upline. And if your problem is with your upline, go to your upline's upline. There's always a solution. Come with solutions, don't come with problems. It's just like business 101. No one wants to hear complaints. What if it's your upline having a terrible day? And you're complaining rather than saying, hey, I was thinking this could be better. What are some ideas we could come up with? It goes along with, don't gossip, don't spread rumors. One of my favorite sayings is, you can tell more about someone by what they say about other people than by what other people say about them. So what are you saying? Because it says everything about who you are. The fourth principle is consultation. And I've been thinking about this one a lot. How many of you actually use consultation? Like two-thirds of the room doesn't. And this is one of the most valuable tools we have in this business. So I look at consultation like this. You are just plugging away, doing your everyday stuff. There's dirt, there's rocks. You're thinking, I want to go up that peak, but you're caught in the dirt and the rocks and the weeds. You're doing your inviting, you're doing your presenting. One day you'll get up there. And what consultation does is it provides an outside perspective. So the first kind of consultation is formal consultation with your upline. You schedule at the beginning of the month, you have a phone call, you say, here's where I'm frustrated. They say, how many invites have you done? How many presentations have you done? How much follow-up have you done? They find out where you're weak. Most of you know this stuff yourself, but sometimes it helps to write it out. And then they find out are you attached to your why? And what they do with this same landscape that you've been plugging away in is give you a new perspective, because that is the same landscape as the one I just showed. from a different perspective. If your upline's a day into the business when you start, they still have a different perspective. So you can always get guidance and coaching for free. And it's interesting, when we started this business, I remember so many times Jeff saying, I wish my father was still alive. Because his father was someone, what he was saying to me was, I want someone who I trust, that always has my best interest in mind, that can give me good advice. That's what your coach is for. That's what your sponsor is for. That's what your upline's for. In this business, it's free. And they've done more of this business than you have. The other piece of consultation is, and for me, again, every value for me, every principle has a value. This value about consultation to me is about growth. The only way we grow is if we learn and get a new perspective. And the only way we grow is if we look in the mirror at what are we doing? What should we be doing differently? This is why we read. I read so I get a different perspective and so I grow. And some of you know I lived in Vietnam, Jeff and I lived in Vietnam, and it was tough for me. I didn't speak the language. I'm not Vietnamese. I don't know if anyone noticed, but there it was pretty obvious. I felt incredibly junior high because I was so tall, and in 7th grade I did this a lot to try and be as short as everyone else in 7th grade. I was uncomfortable, and I had really great people. Catherine and Dean embraced me, and they were so great, and they were so willing to help. But what I realized about my experience at the beginning of Vietnam was it had nothing to do with Vietnam. It was me. Vietnam's a great place. It was me. And I remember Jeff saying, if you're not happy here, we can leave. And I was like, I can't be a leader with new skin and quit. I have to figure out how to be happy anywhere. Even a place where I'm too tall and I don't speak the language and they don't sell peanut butter. Like, I have to figure that they do. You can get peanut butter in Vietnam now at the expensive expat store. But there was things I missed, like my family and my friends. But I started focusing on the things I loved, like the people and the fun and the ao yai. All these things are just amazing, and it's everywhere you go, you can find the greatness in it. So I want you to think again about what you want your legacy to be. The only way to build a solid legacy is with a solid foundation. The only way to have freedom is with a solid foundation. And before you go to bed tonight, I want you to think about this. Who are you building this legacy for? Whose dreams are you holding in your hands? And what will you do to help them get there? Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.